I am here. I am here. Good morning. Happy Monday to everybody and welcome to Richard's show. I hope Richard comes back. Been sitting in for a while. But I have a great show for you this morning. I have one of my favorite people on, someone who I've watched over the years, watched kind of grow up and grow, you know. And well, let's talk about it. We're going to talk about education. We're going to talk about male encouragement, men who we need so many men in the lives of these young men, too. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Samuel Craig.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing wonderful.
Sam is a Highland Parker. I think I met Sam when he was in 10th grade or something like that. He was this guy who was friendly to everybody. He loved to talk.
I still love to talk, but I really like acting in your class.
Yeah,
Drama. That's
that
what
was fun. Well, you find that you can use that across the board, really.
yeah, because we do a lot of acting
We
at
do a lot of
a
acting.
lot
We
of
may
acting.
not call it that, but sometimes we have to rise to different occasions. Sometimes we're prepared for them, and sometimes we're not.
Yes, I found myself as a educator and
Louder.
as an administrator doing a lot of acting. Sometimes I have students in my office, and I'm supposed to be the mature and serious person, and they're telling their story about what happened, and it's all I could do not to crack up.
I know. I know. And
you
the
know,
thing about it is because you were young once, you listened to it.
you know what? I used to listen to kids, and sometimes, I was like, I wonder if they realized I used to be there at some point.
No, they don't.
It's like once you cross a certain age, you forget everything.
Yeah, yeah. I think children, just like our parents, sometimes we don't even think our parents were ever young. Yeah. See, it doesn't, because it seems like they don't understand anything. Let's talk a little history. Highland Park. When did your family move here?
My family moved here when I was in, I want to say, when I was in the first grade, and I went to Liberty. So that was in the early 60s when we moved here.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So you all were in Highland Park quite a while.
We were in Highland Park. Yeah, I've been in Highland Park some kind of way off and on most of my life.
Right. You know what's so funny? That's so funny you say that because I feel like I've been in Highland Park some kind of way most of my life. Did you ever see the movie A Wonderful Life?
Yes.
And he was trying to get out of Bedford Falls, and he could never get out of Bedford Falls. He was trying, he says he's going to leave the town, and but all these things happened, and he never ended up leaving, but he started appreciating. But it's like Highland Park. I left here. I student taught here, then I taught here, then I left here, and then I'm back here.
Oh, okay. I remember you as a teacher. I didn't know about the student teaching part.
Yeah, yeah, I
Yeah.
student taught. First, it was like I went to a little private school, and Highland Park was that big school that I walked into. And I don't know, I fell in love with the community. So that's what I think most of the teachers, Nell Stott, uh, all of us became part of Highland Park. Once you teach in a district, you become, if you're real, you become part of that district.
Well, I think back when I was in school and you were teaching in Highland Park, we had so many options, as young people for career options. I was talking to someone not too long ago about the number of musicians and actors and things that came out of high school. And what was so unfortunate is by the time I came back to Highland Park to be an administrator, a lot of those options were cut out.
Yeah.
The music program was no longer the acting program,
Right.
and we had folks like Michael James going and
Right. And he
acting
did
in the
Thriller. He
music.
was in Thriller.
Yes,
He was in Thriller, and he used to drive me crazy. But but you know, we kept in touch. But the thing is, Highland Park did have a lot of options, and they offered a lot of options for people. And the thing about Highland Park, oh, and by the way, if you want to call in, we're going to put the numbers on the bottom of the screen. You could call us at 313-868-4336, 313-868-0342, or 313-868-0351. But you know, when that high school, when it was over on Glendale, I mean, there were just so many things going on, and it was connected to the college.
yes. I mean, we had dual enrollment long before that became a big thing. Dual enrollment and advanced courses and so on. So we had a lot of students doing a lot of different things. But I think about all of the sports activities, the academic activities, and the creative arts that gave students career options that a lot of our students aren't getting the opportunity to participate in nowadays.
Well, in Highland Park, there is no high school. I never thought I'd see that day, but in Highland Park, there is no high school.
Yeah, that I was here when we really kind of got to the end, right before the district closed.
Weren't you there when I brought my students over from Southfield? I I brought my students over to Highland Park from Southfield about it was like in 2006 or something
Yes,
like
I was
that.
there then.
Uh-huh. We came over and we teen dating violence prevention piece
Yes,
that I have that
right.
I was doing and still work on right now, but it was just so interesting to come back to the school. It was a different school.
It was a different school, and trying to rebuild the school and some of the problems we had trying to keep it going with enrollment. When I got to the high school in 2003 or 2002, I think our enrollment was like less than 500. And then I watched it grow to over 1,500 and then back down, up and down. And such a transient population. And at one point, well, almost all while I was there, the majority of our students came from Detroit.
Well, when I was sponsor of the first class that graduated from that school, and we had over 2,000 students in the school at the time.
Yeah, I
And
think my sister graduated. Well, she
well, that was
graduated in
78.
77. Yeah, in 78.
78.
Yeah,
We came in 77 and graduated in 78. We had good times and good times. And their 40th class reunion is next year. I've spoken at the 10th, the 20th, the 30th, and God hoping the 40th. But Sam, tell the audience, I want you to tell the audience a little more about Sam Craig. What made Sam Craig go? And then I never knew what you were going to do. I never thought that you weren't going to do anything. I didn't know about your aspirations to be a lawyer.
yeah. I really aspired to be a lawyer. My cousin, I have a cousin who's assistant prosecutor in Detroit now. When we were growing up, he and I both planned to go to law school, and I actually took the LSAT a couple times. And what was unfortunate for me and was that I had not been trained. I know that if I was in school now, I'd be on written.
Ritalin, oh yeah,
Because
you were you were bouncing off the walls.
high energy and all over the place. But I didn't have the capacity to focus after more than an hour or two, and I never trained myself, and I didn't, I didn't have all the resources that are available now to kind of help you. So when I took the LSAT, the first half of the test I did
He's
well.
talking about the law exam to see whether or not you qualify to go to law school.
Yes. And so I couldn't get in. Actually, I scored high enough to go to law school, but I couldn't go where I wanted to go. And so I kind of messed around here and there. and eventually had to get a degree in something to take care of my family. And so I was working in substance abuse. And it was ironic. My god sister had a friend that was a program director, and she needed some help. And I had seen drug addicts, and I had some idea as to what that was about. And I went and worked in the field, and I did well in the field.
Well, I remember when you were working at Radio Shack.
Yes, that was while I was finishing up my degree. I was
Right,
working at
right,
Radio
right,
Shack. It's kind of funny. I had a number of different occupations on the way to getting there. A lot of jobs that aren't just don't seem to be available anymore. But while I was working at Radio Shack and finishing shortly after finishing my degree, I ran into Dr. Stott
right,
at a conference, and she got me to come and do a program with in Highland Park, a Title One program. And we took some kids to camp for the summer, or a couple weeks during the summer, and I worked with that. And I eventually came back when they consolidated all the middle schools in Highland Park, and we did a wraparound program that was put together by the county, Easter Seals, and a number of different entities came together, and we did this program, and it was pretty successful, and it was kind of the basis for me changing my career from counseling and going into education.
right. Well, I think education is so noble, especially if you want to. No, I do. Why are you laughing? I just think it is. I don't know. I think it was one of the best things I ever, one of the best decisions I ever made.
I think that education, when I went into education, I tell my students, I really was supposed to be a lawyer, but I think God had other plans for me, and
Absolutely.
that's the occupation that the ministry that was decided for me in terms of working in education. Education has served me well, very well. I've been extremely fortunate to meet a lot of young people and to mentor some young people. I have a number of young people across the country that I still work with that graduated from Highland Park, and we keep
Right.
in touch. So education has served me well, you know.
Well, we were talking earlier about males and not getting as much encouragement from older men, right? From mentors.
Well, men mentors being available, period. I recall, I got some direction from a couple men while I was in high school, and my counselor, Ray Williams,
Right.
Damon White, I had some
Yes.
conversations with him about different things. But after, I really started going through my trials. My mother used to call them fiery trials, in terms of trying to decide what type of man I was going to be, what I was going to do. When I had questions as a young man, trying to be there for my wife and family, my first wife kind of she got a bum deal because I had no clue. I had no clue,
How old
and
were you when you first got married?
actually, I was 34 when I
Oh
first
my
got
God, you
married.
should have known something by then.
Well, I knew what I had seen my father do. I knew how to go to work and bring money home. I didn't know nothing about being there emotionally and supportive and all this kind of stuff. As far as I knew, my role was to finance the house. That was it.
Oh, wow. Well, there's so much more to it,
Yeah.
on both parts,
Well, you
men and
learn.
women.
But the thing is back in the day, it seemed like there were a few. There were people, guys, that would give you advice, whether it was good advice or not. Everybody had opinions, but I went through a period in my life, somewhere between like 20 something and 30, where it seemed like, I was constantly trying to find myself, in my role in Christianity, in the church, they say this thing about your social life, your spiritual life, and your career life. You can't have more than one out of sync at the same time, and
Oh,
all of mine were out of all of mine were out of whack, and I just didn't have a lot of direction from men at the time. I had a lot of female mentors who kind of helped me through that process, and so I kind of recognized that. Well, I feel that there's a need for more males to be in that role for some of our younger brothers right now.
so you said you had a lot of women who who were like role models. Well, not role models, but you.
I had a lot of women that mentored me. I have a friend that I met when I graduated from high school. We were at community college named Donald, and his mom was very spiritual, and between her and my mom and my godmother Dorothy Wilkerson that lived on Richmond. I stayed with her after my mother moved back to Alabama, so I stayed in Highland Park,
Right.
and so I had all these different women who kind of helped me stay
Well,
spiritually
don't you
grounded.
think women can raise men?
I think women can raise men, but there are some areas where men natural. Well, there are areas where young men challenge women, and they won't challenge a man. They'll learn more from a man than they will a woman in certain areas.
Hmm. Hmm. I wonder what people think about that. I don't know. Well,
Well, listen, I just got married last year. We have an 11-year-old son,
uh huh.
right? And I will listen at my wife tell him something and tell him stuff. And he hears her, but he ignores her until she nuts up on him or something like
Right.
that. And I could tell him the same thing, and we
One
not
time.
one time we not going through that. And that's kind of how that is. There are some things that men need to teach young men about. I felt
Like what?
like when I told you my first wife got cheated. You know, if I was talking to my son, about getting married, and things of this nature, I would have a lot more to say about relationships and what's important, and not winning
Than you
that
would
battle.
have that 34-year
Yeah.
old would. Right, right. Well, sometimes you got to know when to hold, know when to fold.
Yes.
Right, because sometimes sometimes let's talk about disagreements between men and women. Sometimes people want to go down to Chinatown. Sometimes people don't want to compromise. So, what would you say the best advice is?
Well, I used to go into disagreements trying to win. And and at some point you stop hearing the other person.
Yeah.
And when you don't hear me and I don't hear you, we're not going anywhere. And so that ends in frustration for both people. I would tell young men that you have to be able to validate her. You hear what she says, repeat back to her what she meant, so she understands that you know what she meant. Then she'll hear what you have to say. If you don't validate her, you're not going nowhere. It's just a circle.
It's just, yeah, it becomes a circle, and then sometimes you reach an impasse, and
Yes.
the impasse is not good.
No, it's not. Especially when you have and you know when you have disagreements about things that are critical, like finances, how you're going to do this, that, and the other, and you're reaching an impasse. That means that problem is still there, waiting to be discussed or debated again at some point.
At some point, because you
Yes.
didn't settle it then.
Then yes. And so, with age, maturity, things of this nature, you kind of learn. My wife and I kind of had discussions and debates, and she shut it down. She know I like to debate anyway. So she'll shut it down, and we'll come to a resolution at under her conditions, basically.
Well, Sam, what as far as school, I know at Southfield when I was teaching there, and they still have it. They have a Project Manhood, where some of the male teachers are involved in this extracurricular activity, too, and they have the young men doing different projects. They're there for the young men to talk to and so forth. I think. And what do you think of things like that, or things like My Brother's Keeper, or do you think those are good programs?
I think they're all good programs. I think the problem is that it's
Not enough of them.
not enough of them, and they need to be where the young people are. You know, a lot of young people are having a lot of problems in the school. You know, in terms of dealing with violence, gang violence,
Yes,
and peer pressure and things of this
bullying
nature, bullying, and
and
so
cyberbullying. You know, there was a time, like when you were in high school, or especially back in the prehistoric days when I was in high school, really, we did not graduate 10 years apart. I mean, really. Um, but I remember we didn't have social media. We didn't have, that is another cause for concern, don't you think?
I think, you know, we were talking about this not long ago. You know, when I was in high school, they used to call it playing the dozens and this,
Yeah.
that, and the other. And now they call that bullying, you know. And
Well, it's a little more to it,
it
don't you
is a
think?
little more to it, but that's because they take it to different extremes now. And kids being teased about their weight, committing suicide, and not being liked. And kids can be cruel, very cruel, you know.
Very cruel. And sometimes they get that from their uh, family.
Well, yeah, that's where they learn all them nice little traits like racism, bigotry, and being
Right,
cruel to other people
right,
who are different.
right. Absolutely.
Yes.
But, you know, as I said, there are a different set of issues that we have from when you were in there. We have some of the same, but then we have some of them have been maximized, you know, through social media and other things.
Well, yeah, and then the consequences are so different and dire. You know, when I was in school, people would fight at 3 o'clock on Friday. You know,
Yeah. Oh,
stuff,
yeah.
stuff
Oh,
like
that.
that. You know, we get into it. You know, I see you Friday at 3 o'clock, and so you know we'd fight, and that'd be the end of it. You know,
Right.
now things don't stop. In the high school,
That's
I can't tell you how many fights I had to deal with that started in middle school, where they keep it going, and the parents are involved. You got grown-ups coming up to fight with kids and
I'm not.
all that kind of stuff.
Who
It's
does that?
ridiculous, you know. It's like, how do you stop this mess? You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, how do you stop it? How do you stop parents from coming up? A lot of things happen even over, take a Christmas vacation. It'll start on Instagram or something like that. And so they're ready. If the school starts at 8 o'clock, they're ready to walk into school at 7:55 or 7:50, and they have that fight that morning.
Well, I'll tell you some of the problems we had prior to Highland Park closing. Somebody could have a disagreement right now. You know, at the old high school, there were 48 doors in that building. I had 11 security when everybody showed up, right? And so at any given time, somebody could have an issue with somebody else. They text somebody on the outside, pop one of those doors open, and
Right.
next thing I know, I got all hell breaking loose on the lower level in the classroom or something like that. So the security issues have changed, you know, and then if you stop folks from using their phones. You know, it was ironic that I could call parents all day and they wouldn't come. But if I took a cell phone,
Oh,
they would be there before school was out, you know. And they don't understand the security risk with kids with cell phones and
right.
texting and all that kind of stuff.
I remember this was in the 80s. One of my students showed up with the big bag with the phone in it, you know, the big bag. I said, "What is that?" Miss Perriman, this is my phone. I gotta. I said, "What?" So I remember when that kind of started, but then so much. I don't understand people being willing to fight with reckless abandon. They're trying to kill that other person, not just fight them, but fight them hard enough to really hurt them.
You know, I used to marvel at that. The year I came to Highland Park, they put me at Liberty. I was at Liberty and Ford, splitting time at two schools as assistant principal. And the next year they said, we need you at the high school. I go to the high school, I think we had three police officers in the whole city. And when the kids would get into it, if there was no gun shots fired, I wasn't getting any backup. And so I would be out there trying to keep these kids from killing each other, and it was so frustrating. But I would notice that they would be so angry, and I don't know if it was the economics or the condition, but it was like the kids were angry when the parents came. They were angry, and it's not all situations, but when that violence erupted, there was an anger that transcended, the
Yes,
situation. It was
yes.
worse than the situation called for.
So, were parents cooperative?
Well, I've had it both ways. Pretty much all the parents want their kids to be successful,
Right.
and when they know you care about their kids, you can
You can work in tandem. You
you
can
can work
work
together.
together.
I've had parents call me, Mr. Craig, just smack him and send him back to class, please. The funniest thing, I was working at Ford, and I called a parent because her son had done something. And she came up to the school and she said, Mr. Craig, I was in the kitchen cooking hamburgers, so I brought my spatula. Where's my child? And give me a room. She went in there. I had no more. I teased him in high school about that. I would see him. I was like, don't make me call your mother.
Oh my God. But that's just the way it is. A parent hates to get a call. My mother got a call. I was in 5th grade. I was writing notes and I got caught. And I had a nun for a teacher. And she said, I'm calling your mother. You could beat me over the head. You could do anything. You could tie me up and throw me in a closet, but don't call my mother. And so the next morning, we were getting ready to go to school, and I had a nosebleed. I thought, luckily, I said, "Golly, my nose is bleeding." My mother said, "Get a cold rag, put the head back, and do everything." And then we're going out. You were going to school. I mean, there was nothing I could do. But do you find that some parents? What do you do with the parent who doesn't respond to anything?
There have been times when I called a parent and I wondered, if I'd have been better off just dealing with the student as opposed to bringing that parent in. I had a young person in my office one day that had several fights and they were always fighting, and so I called the parent in, and then I see the mother and she got thug life tattooed across her breast. So so what do you do?
What do you do?
So I decided that I had to be creative in terms of how I work with the young person. You don't want to put them out of school, but I have to be concerned about the safety and welfare of all the other students. And so, in that case, I was able to work with the young person. So sometimes you kind of have to work around the parent. Unfortunately, we had a lot of parents who just didn't have the time to commit to the discipline and supervision of their kids. A lot of parents working two and three jobs and leaving their kids pretty much to raise
Raise
themselves. And
themselves.
so they think because they raise themselves at home that they can raise themselves, uh, speak accordingly at school. And so we've had to deal with things like that, lack of parents.
Right. Well, let's talk about the young men.
Okay.
What do you what would you like to see? Okay, you say they need more mentors. Mentors to do what? I mean, can't a young man have you had female mentors? You had people knock you upside the head. I think I knocked you upside the head a couple of times.
I think the main thing I want to do is encourage young men. Um, people, when I first finished my PhD, you should have heard some of my former classmates say, it's like, wait, Sam Craig is the principal at the high school? He's the assistant principal. Sam Craig got a doctorate? The Sam, you talking about the one I know, right?
Right.
Sam Craig. And you know, people kind of see me now, and you know how they say in church, you know, but they don't know my testimony, right?
Right.
And so I think that the main thing for me is that I want young men to know that if they keep showing up and keep trying, that they can still do whatever they want to. You know, we have a whole group of people who are just hopeless. You know, they've given up hope.
Well, I think sometimes when you fail at something, and we all have failed at something or a number of things, some people just give up. I can't do it. I failed at this. We have to teach them to get back up, don't you think?
Yeah, we have to teach them to get back up and you know and to keep trying. You know, sometimes you have to try things a different way and so on. You know, I look at young people now and years ago they were microwave society, but our kids, you know, even the poorest of household kids are spoiled. Almost every kid got a cell phone. You
Yeah.
know, and when we were growing up, there were certain things that you just didn't get because it wasn't in the budget. But these kids don't know. No,
But don't you think that parents, with the cell phone, let's talk about the cell phone for a moment, and they're getting the cell phones younger and younger.
right?
Parents say it's so that they could call them in case of emergency. The parent can connect with the child. What do you think about that? Don't you?
I see that as a convenience, especially you know you got a mother that's going from one job to the other, you know, and she needs to be able to reach her kids and so on. But kids kind of take it to another step, you know,
Of
because
course.
you telling them, okay, it's okay to have your cell phone. I don't want to see your cell phone during school.
Right, right, right.
You know, we go in the auditorium for an assembly. As soon as the lights out, you see about
All
30,
those,
all of
yeah.
those cell phones. Everybody's on their cell phone. I used to collect a dozen cell phones, you know, every time we have something, you know, and then have to wait for parents and folks to come and get those cell phones. Um, like I said earlier, with the cell phone, some of that it was a security thing. But I don't know. Cell phones to me is just another distraction. You know.
Well, if they had a flip phone would be, they can't do all the things that they do.
Let me tell you what something that happened to me at the high school. I had been at the high school maybe 2 weeks, and I used to try to come in at school started at 8. I come in 7:30. You know, and it seemed like as soon as I get there, my day would be take off and I'd never get anything done. So I started coming in at 6:30 so that I could get some paperwork done and have something on my list checked off before I go into
Right.
crisis management mode. Well, most of our students were notoriously late. The students wouldn't get to school to 8:30 even though they got 8 o'clock class. You know, they were chronically late. But this particular morning at 6:30, I'm walking through the hall and I turn the corner and it's like literally hundreds of kids at their lockers, right? And all of these kids got the new Jordans. They got new Jordans, they got t-shirts to match and they prepping themselves and all this
And they
stuff.
were on time.
They were early, an hour and a
Early.
half early at 6:30. You know, and so that kind of told me something in terms of, you know, the priorities, what's important, you know, things of this nature. You know, it told me a lot about what I was dealing with, you know.
Yeah, well, you got to go beyond that. I mean, okay, it tells you forewarned is forearmed, all of that. So, what did I mean as consequence of that? Okay, you learned that if kids got something new, they're gonna come early.
No, I learned that those kids were from households that could barely afford a lot of those Jordans. So those kids was spoiled. Number one,
Right.
you know, and the parents kind of catered to what those kids wanted. You know, it was important for them to be um, dressed appropriately for their peers. That was important. You know,
Well, did you all ever go into a uniform situation?
no, we could never get. It's hard to go into a uniform situation once you get people like that because the kids go home and they don't want a uniform, so the parents are going to advocate for what the kids want. If you have a school and you make it uniform before they get there, then you could do that. You can't. It's hard to change into a uniform situation, which would have been better. That would have cut down a lot of the violence, kids getting stuck up for gym shoes and things of this nature. You know, it would have probably helped the parents too.
I remember when I was teaching at the high school. I left the high school in '88, but I remember the coats. I forgot those. Oh, what were these
I
coats?
remember
Um,
uh,
what were those coats they were robbing?
the one
Nanny goat or
the with the fur collar
yeah,
on the
right,
back. Yeah,
right.
I remember those. That was a long time ago.
That was a long
Yeah,
time
but a
ago.
lot of folks got hurt over those coats. You know, every year is something different. Whatever comes out, and they're usually overpriced, and folks
Right.
are trying to wear them. With us, it was
Especially black people.
those glasses.
Casals.
No. They had wood frames. They had guy.
Oh, I
Matter of
know.
fact, they had
I
a
know.
guy that broke in the store on TV. I mean, on camera and stole his glasses, and they put it on the news. And his mama called him, turned him in.
Wait a minute. I know the glasses. I'm looking at them. I know exactly what you're
I know the
talking about.
glasses too, but I can't think of the name of the glasses for to save my life.
Well,
But
we unfortunately, when I was teaching in Southfield, we had a young man who was killed over those
we
glasses.
had a few situations like that also. You know, you got kid walking around, you know, with $2,000 and $3,000 glass frames on, you know, and that means something, you know. So it says a lot about where we have to
Well,
go.
it says a lot about the value system.
It does.
About the value system. Styles come in and out, but you just can't go. I remember my son telling me, he said, "Ma, everybody got the latest everything, and I don't." I said, "Ryan, keep your nose to the grindstone." I said, "You'll get something," and he got a job. He got a job. Once he got the job, he was able to save a little bit of money, buy him those. I don't know. It was some overall thing they were wearing, like crisscross or something.
Mm.
But anyway, you tell him later on you can afford anything you want if you do the right thing. Now he can afford anything he wants, and he'll go buy stuff at the Salvation Army.
It's his dime.
I know it's
Yeah.
his money. It's his money. And but I think I really have always been partial to young men, as far as in fact person, one of my principals got up when I retired and had a event, and he said she was always good with those boys, and I do, because I think they're the wounded warriors. They're not even out there yet, but I think that they have to be forearmed, armed when they go out there, because and then you get grandsons and your sons, and you want them protected, but you want them to be able to think on their feet, because this society right now takes no prisoners.
Yeah, society is very difficult. What concerns me is that the just the nature of the way things are going is creating an atmosphere where young people are expecting a lot to be given to them. I look at as a young person when I was growing up here in Highland Park, I had a paper route. As a teenager, I cleaned up one of the local beauty shops. You know, I worked there. Then I worked at Maya drugstore. You know, I would deliver prescription medicine to seniors in Palmer Woods and all this kind of stuff. So there were a number of occupations for us. Now those occupations aren't for young people anymore. You have seniors doing those jobs, and
Yeah.
older folks trying to raise a household on those jobs that used to be reserved for young people. And so I would see like my kids from the high school out in Madison Heights. You know, they could catch a bus to work and then couldn't get back to Highland Park. So the kids that really wanted to work, you know, were having a difficult time getting back and forth to work, you know, so they start to work for the only occupation that's hiring.
We have a call. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Miss Perryman, and good morning to your guest. This is Six
Hi,
Four.
six
How you
four.
doing?
I can't. We got to turn you
You
up.
know,
I can't hear you that well. But
I just want to say this. It appears that today's generation are feel entitled to things,
there.
when you have parents who tell them stuff like, "Well, I'm gonna give you everything that I never had," or "I'm gonna work two jobs to just give," and I'm gonna work, I'm gonna give, and I'm gonna give. You're not holding your children to no kind of level of accountability.
That's
Well, like
true.
the brother said, we had paper routes. You know, our mothers told us to go out there and rake somebody's yard or go
Yeah.
do something. Don't sell drugs, but do something. I done watched women and some guys tell their kids that they didn't have to do anything. They
That's
got this. I want
that's
you to concentrate on your education, but they not even getting an education.
well. What are you saying? Are they not getting an education in the school that they're going to, or they're just
Yeah, well,
not?
what I mean, what they say though, the reason why they give them everything so they can concentrate on their education, but then when you look at their grades, that's not even working.
Right, right.
You know,
Because
they've been buying them shoes all their life and still can't spell Nike, can't read or write. But yet the parent, their thing is, I'm doing everything I can so my child could concentrate on being a better person. But the child is not concentrating on being a better person. The child is not realizing the position they in to make themselves a better person
I agree
because
with
they
you.
too busy taking advantage of their parents and their parents' feelings about the way they think the things they think they should have.
I think that what you're saying is good. Sam, you have something to say?
I'm in agreement with the brother.
Right, that's 6'4".
6'4".
Yeah, that's his name.
Okay.
That's what we call him.
Well, it's something that I catch a lot of flack about when I talk about that because people don't like to be told the truth sometimes when it comes to raising children. That's the one thing that some people don't want you telling them about is how to raise their children. And one place we were giving a lecture at, I asked, people was telling me how they know their children and they know, well, I know my child and you can't tell me nothing about my child. And I say, well, why did he shoot that person? I don't know. Okay, let me try another. Why did he carjack them people? I don't know. See, we never know nothing about our kids, but don't want nobody telling us nothing about our kids.
Absolutely.
And nobody grows. No
You have
one
to
grows. The parent don't grow, and if the parent don't grow, then what do you think the child's going to do? We just hope and pray that that child will be brilliant and resilient enough to not pick up on those ways and to pick up on the more positive things in life. Like I tell the brothers, if you can watch Power, you see Ghost being a successful. Start watching those shows that make you think the only way you can be a successful businessman is that you start off selling drugs first, then wash your money up through a business.
right.
There's
Good.
two guys in that movie. There's a guy who does that, and then there's a councilman in there. There's a legit businessman and woman in that movie. If you can pick up on Ghost, then you surely can pick up on the councilman. You surely can pick up on that businessman who ain't doing the drugs, who ain't killing everybody.
Yeah, but we know that the flamboyance and the glamour and glitter always kind of attract the eye, and we want the shortest route to prosperity.
Yeah, but there are
But before I go,
consequences.
can I tell you this? Ask you this? Well, maybe you could think about this with me, Miss Perryman, and your guest. A lot of what I've learned from a lot of our younger men, especially when it comes to them getting in trouble, when it comes to the drugs, when it comes to these particular lifestyles, the main thing is that they were trying to help out. They were tired of hearing their mother's plea. I'm broke. I can't do this. I talked to guys. They said, man, I was doing this because, man, I'm just trying to help my mother. I'm trying to help my sisters. Sometimes we could put so many problems on our children that they feel compelled to step in and fill shoes that they have no business filling.
Well, I have a saying, pay now or pay later with your kids. You got to put in the work. You got to put in that work.
Thank
And
you for taking my call,
that's
Miss
part of
Brenda.
what I'm talking about in terms of creating options. When I was talking about the high school, we had so many different options for career path for young folks, and now there's a hopelessness. It's like the only thing left to do is that one occupation that's available in the neighborhood, and so we have to hold some of these
And we have
organizations
to
to
find
task.
out, but we have to find out about other things that are available. This is what I noticed from doing this show and talking to people. I find that there are so many more training programs out there for young adults than ever. There are a lot of training programs. And then we had a discussion on my Table Talk show about the fact that some jobs, there are a lot of jobs, but a lot of people aren't passing the drug tests. And so people are talking about, well, why they got to take a drug test? Well, you got to take a drug test.
I was on the Partnership for Drug Free Detroit, um, the task executive committee for Partnership for Drug Free Detroit one year, and there were 75 jobs in the city of Detroit that they were trying to fill. They had over 5,000 applicants, only 150 passed the drug test.
That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
If
But
you really want a job, you got to make a sacrifice.
But now with legalization of medical marijuana, even though you got a marijuana card and this, that, and the other, it's still you still test positive, you're not getting the job.
That's true. That is true.
You know,
That is true.
and so we have more people missing on opportunities for smoking marijuana now than ever before.
Well, I mean, I'm a child of the 60s. That's all I'll say. But in order to get a job, like right now, they just announced, I heard this morning, Gardner White, the furniture company, they're interviewing people today. And I stopped by a gas station on Telegraph week before last, and these two young men, they opened the door for me, and they were so excited. They were going to the old Holiday Inn that used to be over there, the round building
Hmm.
on Telegraph, and they were saying, "Yeah, I got my stuff. I'm going to the job interview." They just seemed so excited about going to get jobs, and I was excited. I love to see men empowered. I love to see women empowered. But I think right now we're coming to a little crisis point because somebody, everybody wants to be in charge. Everybody, the women want to be in charge, the men want to be in charge.
But the thing is that the women pretty much got their stuff together. I mean, they're still fighting that glass ceiling, but women are have come together. They're organized in so many ways and shapes and fashions that far exceeds where we are as African American males. And I think the reason that it's so critical for us as males to get it together is because how do you eliminate a culture? You get rid of the men in that culture,
I
and you
know.
can pretty much eliminate that whole race. And right now, we're sending more men to prison than we sending to college,
It's
and
horrible.
it's like it's open season on black men. So it's
Yes.
critical that we do something to empower us and turn this thing around.
Yes, and I think you have some solutions too. Here's a call. Good morning. Hello?
Good morning. I give you a life this morning.
Hi. Pardon?
I agree and disagree with what both you guys are saying as far as there not being any jobs. I was told to work. I was never told to get up and get a job. So if you see an entrepreneurial spirit or you're around somebody that can create wealth by using their talents, I think sometimes that's better. I'm just blessed that my daughter is an artist, so I had it a little bit easier. She's never had a job. She draws and does drafts for independent freelance companies, and she's 19 years old and she's making pretty well. But with that being said, sometimes we have to change our focus and try to help them create something that they can do and stop focusing on what they can't do.
Well, I am in the theatrical arts. I taught acting, and I have a lot of students who went on and gone on and pursued it, and I encourage that. And I believe, I just really do believe in. I believe there are jobs out there, but I believe also that whatever your passion is, and I gave a speech about this Friday, that you should go on and pursue that passion. I really do. And if your daughter is lucky to have a parent like you who encourages her to pursue that, instead of some parents who may have a child who's an artist, a singer, or an actor who said, you got to go get a real job, you know. Oh,
We don't want to mislead you. I don't think it's that there are not a lot of jobs. I think that a lot of the opportunities that used to be there are no longer available, and then some of our young people are taking themselves out of consideration by their habits that they're participating in, like smoking weed and things of this nature. So we want to create and open some opportunities for them and make them get them better prepared for the opportunities when they come.
I agree with that. But you know what? It starts real young. So some of us have dropped the ball. I'm almost 50 years old in parenting, but some of us have dropped the ball. We have to start when they're much younger to instill some type of work ethic or ethic within that kid. It's hard to get them when they're 14 and try to tell them this is what you should be doing and this is what you shouldn't be doing. You have to start real early.
right. You know what I did 2 years ago? I think, yeah, 2 years ago with my grandson, who was 9 at the time. I made out a job application, just a little simulated one, because he was going to do work for me during the summer. But I wanted, I started that early. I really did, and he wants to work still. As far as his job for grandma, grandma got felt sorry for him out there picking them weeds. Come on in, honey. But yeah, I did feel a little sorry for him. But I think that work ethic is very important, and he's willing to work very hard. As far as he wants to get other things for himself, he likes video games. Uh, but I think that if a parent sees a child has a talent, a parent, it's indicative of that parent to encourage that. Put them in the right classes, get other training and so forth. And it seems like you've done that. Your daughter's doing pretty well for her age.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I came from an entrepreneurial family, so it was quote unquote a little bit, I guess, easier for me. I've always looked at the glass instead of half full, half empty. What are you going to do to fill the glass? So I was raised, in a different environment.
Right, right. Well, I thank you so much for your call. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great day.
You too.
This has been enlightening.
Really interesting. And it's a conversation that needs to continue, really. And I can't wait till you put your book out. You got to come here with your book.
Yes, you got to help me come up with a title for it.
I know something that pops.
Yeah.
But Sam Craig, where are you living now? What's
I live in Lithonia, Georgia.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How far is that from Conyers?
Not far. I don't know exactly. My wife, I have to ask her about those things, but I was going somewhere in Conyers, and I think it's like 15 minutes from where we
Yeah,
are.
my brother lives there.
Really?
Yeah.
So you have to come on down and visit us.
I don't know. I might have to fly down, sit in the airport, visit with everybody, and go on back up. No, I'm just kidding. I hope the weather's okay.
Well, once that Irma leave, we should be good for a little while.
Irma's gone.
Is she?
Irma's just about gone. Yeah.
No, it was still
She's
raining
a
this
tropical
morning.
storm. Yeah.
It was still raining this morning. But I
Well, thank you
appreciate your
so
opportunity
much.
to talk about.
Definitely. Just
Life.
to talk about life and talk about education because we have to forge ahead with it.
Yes, and we have to show our young people, especially our young men, that if they keep showing up, they achieve their
You
dreams.
just got to keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Thank you, Sam Craig. Everybody, be with me Friday morning, 9 and 10 o'clock. I'll see you there.